The fixers where you're kind of like, I wouldn't make eggs in this kitchen. It's in pretty bad shape. Okay. So hey YouTube. So the Buy Like a Pro series continues. All right. So what are we talking about now? We're talking about condition. Okay. The condition of the property. All right. So this is one of those things where it takes a little time to get on the same page as maybe your partner, because frequently what happens, in my experiences, is that you have one person that's like okay with a fixer, and then the other person is like, no, we need to have something that's turnkey and ready to go. Okay. So let's talk about like the levels first. So let's first dive into like the levels of condition. So I would say in this market, like what people would view as the best condition is like, boom, brand new construction. So it's built 2020, 2019, no one's ever lived in it, brand new. All right. So that is one option. All right. And that is available in this market. The second thing would be something that is newer. So maybe something that's been built in the last 5 years, one owner, maybe. And that house is going to be, it should be in relatively good condition still. Okay. 5 years old. The next one is going to be a remodeled house. So the remodeled houses can, as far as age, sort of span the gamut. All right. So, you can go from, we have houses from the 1800s. So sort of like late 1800s all the way to today. And, real key feature of these houses is that usually someone has come in and sort of just like redone like every single system. And, redone like drywall, repainted, all those types of things. Okay. And here's the deal with remodels. There are, sort of like, levels of remodel too, of course. All right. So sometimes it's kind of like a partial remodel. Like they kind of went in, they did like sort of like superficial look. And then other times they've done something more deep. All right. The next level is going to be your cosmetic fixer. Okay, your cosmetic fixer. Now, a cosmetic fixer are homes where you don't really have to deal with systems. And by systems, I mean, you don't have to deal with like, a full electrical rewire or plumbing or new furnace or, maybe a new water heater. Water heater's not that expensive. So, but it is one of those things where people are kind of like, okay, do I need to worry about that? So the primary ones that I'm thinking about are the big ticket ones. So like electrical, plumbing, HVAC, those big items, roof, maybe, you kind of can avoid having to do those things. And instead you're looking at things like, okay, this house was built in 1980 and, I don't like, these countertops, you need a new backsplash. It was built in the 90s, maybe, you want to do new cabinets because, the things that were popular then, they're just not popular right now. So people would come in and maybe you would like paint out the cabinets if they're wood, and then you would replace the countertops with like a quartz or something like that. So that would be like your cosmetic fixer. So you're not really doing any like big ticket items, though it could be expensive, right? Like a cosmetic fixer, you could go in and you could spend $30,000 doing some cosmetic work. Okay. But those are the kind of items that I'm thinking of with a cosmetic fixer. The next level is going to be your fixer. All right. So a fixer now, in my mind, I think about a house where you're like, okay, we got to like take it down to the studs. All right. And these types of homes would need things like new electrical systems, potentially new plumbing, new roof, new HVAC system, like those types of items. All right. Would be a fixer. Okay, that would be a fixer. And the next level, believe it or not, there is another level. And I think it would be the type of house that is just like a complete, like you're just going to like scrape it. And, do we have those houses frequently in Everett? They're there. Sometimes what ends up happening is people kind of push them into that fixer category, but they do exist. These houses where it's just kind of like, okay, well, we just got to basically take it down to the foundation and rebuild the whole entire thing. Okay. So those are your levels of condition. Now, I think the conversation really that you need to have around these is you need to know sort of like what your financing situation is. how handy you are, sort of slash resilient, right? Because, you know, a lot of times when you have a fixer or you need to do work, it's not just like, it's not simple. You know, you have to deal with the city, you have to hire a contractor, like, you know, all these things take time and all that stuff from your life, you know. So it's like you got to sort of think about, like, is that the situation I want? Do I want to get a house where we have to spend time doing all of these things, you know, dealing with all of these different people? Okay. So I think those are the big things. So time, you know your budget, and then also what kind of financing you're doing. Okay, so once you get into like sort of like that fixer category, you can start to get restricted on your standard run-of-the-mill financing. Okay, so you may have issues like if you're doing like a VA loan, an FHA loan, and even sometimes a conventional loan. Once you get into that fixer category, depending on what needs to be done in the house, it may be more difficult to get those loans. Okay, and then, you know, it's difficult to get those loans. So I'm going to sort of say that it's harder to get those loans, but it's not impossible to get a loan. Okay, in the fixer category, it's not impossible, but it's difficult. So many of those houses, usually when they put them on the market, they're kind of looking for cash buyers. But you know, there are definitely fixer houses. Like, you know, these houses are the houses that are kind of like, oh, my grandma lived in this house. All right. You know, these houses, they're sort of like mid-century, built in maybe in like the 40s, 50s. They could even be built in the 30s, where they're livable and they would make it through financing, but you still got to redo them all. And then there's also the fixers where you're kind of like, I wouldn't make eggs in this kitchen. It's in pretty bad shape. Okay. So, you know, those fixers kind of come in different varieties. The houses where you wouldn't make eggs in them, like those are the houses where you may have trouble getting financing. Okay. So, you know, that's sort of something to consider. Now, the sort of things that you can do to kind of work around the financing, I think is for another video. Okay. But there are ways to work around the financing to make that possible. All right. So, I mean, I think really some folks have a really good idea because they're sort of like, okay, like I'm not very handy. I don't want to live in a renovation, because here's the thing. Most financing requires you to move into the home at a certain period of time. And I mean, to be honest with you, in the city of Everett, the permitting process, you know, it takes so long. Like you'd have to like live through the renovation. All right. You know, people don't want to do that. You know, a lot of times, you know, many people just kind of want to like just move in and start living. So that would be the conversation. So if you could sort of imagine those levels. So we've got like brand new, no one's ever lived in it. We've got the newer type house. We've got the like renovated, you know, and then there's like sort of those levels to renovation. We've got the cosmetic fixer. We've got the fixer, and then the last one is like the house just needs to be kind of like mowed down completely and rebuilt from scratch. So have that conversation. Sit down with whoever you're buying with, or with yourself, and just sort of like have a reality check. Like, you know, what do I want to put into this house? Do I just want to move in? Do I have the flexibility? Do I have the skills? Do I have the patience to do a fixer? Or is it just kind of like, hey, I have a 2-year-old. We don't have time for this. We just need to move into something newer or already renovated. Okay. So that is your video on condition. So this would be, you know, a good conversation to have with your partner, and then a conversation to have with your agent, so that you're looking at the correct houses, okay, and not spending time looking at houses that would not work for you. Okay. So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. It's going down. We've got more to come on this Buy Like a Pro series. Chat with you soon, YouTube.